What do we put as your title?
Creative Communicator.
That's a good one. Okay. Tell us a bit about the early days of your creative communicating of the gospel and some of the standout moments like Guinness Book of World Records, things like that.
I don't like to talk about these things, but it all started 32 years ago. I've been on the road 32 years, which is staggering, over 3 decades, travelling around doing comedy, magic. Used to specialise in escapology, some of my most dangerous stunts, escaping from a straitjacket, hanging upside down from a crane 50 metres in the air. Standout moments, probably performing at the Royal Albert Hall was an incredible buzz. And also preaching the gospel at the Day of the Dead in Mexico City. I was invited probably 5 years in a row, Halloween, thousands of people, the people in black robes at this occult festival, and I performed, preached the gospel, and at the end of my message, I said, who wants to meet the Lord of Life during the Day of the Dead? And would you believe it, 300 people came forward for prayer, and we saw these people become Christians at the biggest occult festival in Central America. That has got to be a big high for me.
What have been some of the highlights, maybe individual people that have responded because of that unusual way you've communicated the gospel?
Well, I've discovered the gospel works, and if you preach the gospel and give people an opportunity, people respond, and it's been great seeing thousands of people respond. But something that sticks out in my mind, Colchester University, probably about 25 years ago, the Christian Union organised an event with me and a band, huge production, but only 30 people turned up. And there was only one unbeliever, and there were 29 people from the Christian Union. And I said, look, I'm very happy to preach the gospel, tell people how they can meet Jesus. And I thought, there's only one unbeliever here. If anyone's going to look silly, it's going to be me. And I explained how to become a Christian, and this guy put his hand up and said, I want to follow Jesus. So I got 100% that night. So that's not bad, is it?
What have been some of the most unusual moments? You've written a couple of books about your travels over the years.
Oh, man.
Tell us about the books as well.
Yeah, I've written, I think, probably about 17 over the years, training books in evangelism and then sort of stories, because I'm the kind of person, wherever I go, things happen to me. I've been locked out of hotel rooms in just my pants and socks and had to go to reception. So many crazy things over the year. Life is an amazing adventure, and it's good to laugh.
So tell us how you went from doing that to launching a Christian men's magazine. What made you want to do that?
Do you know what? I'm into creative communication, be it books or personal appearances and the magic and the comedy. 12 and a half years ago, I was chatting to my accountant in the school playground, and I always have to explain, we both had children at the school. We didn't just get together to discuss my tax return. And he was telling me how his 10-year-old son's mates were bringing lads mags into the playground, these really unhelpful magazines, nuts loaded, FHM, and he said, wouldn't it be great if someone started something that was good and wholesome, that was an evangelistic tool as well? And I said to him, some of you'd have to be crackers to do that. And I felt God nudge me a little bit. And I believe finance follows faith, and I stepped out in faith, and I had a database with no subscribers, with no advertisers, but just with this crazy idea. And I chatted to people like Bear Grylls, who've been involved from the beginning, and Sorted was born 12 years ago. And it's grown, and it's one of the biggest men's magazines in the world. We send free copies into 71 prisons. Some prisons get hundreds of copies. Belmarsh, for example, in London, used to get 80 magazines every 2 months for free. And the chaplain wrote to me saying scuffles are breaking out on the wing when the magazine's arriving. These hardened prisoners, these criminals, are fighting over this Christian magazine. Can you send more? So we sent 120 to Belmarsh alone. So tremendously exciting. We give away free copies to the armed forces. So we're on every ship, submarine, marine base all across the world. So amazingly exciting. And would you believe it? I got one on my lap. There we go. You can get sorted yourself.
Now, you're always telling me when I write for Sorted or with the podcast interviews to think of a 27-year-old decorator.
Painter and decorator,
tell us
yeah.
a bit about that target audience and how you're trying to avoid the Christianese and reach guys like that.
Well, I always say to the Christian guys, we want Christian guys to subscribe, and it's £21 a year with a direct debit, and it comes in the post every 2 months. I want to encourage those guys in their faith, but for these guys to have the confidence to pass it on afterwards and to pass it on to a mate, put it through someone's door. Once again, we've had people come to faith on trains and planes because people have taken a magazine, I've left it on an aeroplane. I've had 2 American pilots write to me who picked up a copy that someone left on their plane, took it back to their hotel, heard about Jesus, fell on their knees, literally, and became Christians. So it's the easiest thing in the world to leave a magazine. Doctors, dentists, barbers, hairdressers, you name it.
You've managed to somehow get some of the most well-known men in the world, particularly those in movies.
Yeah.
Tell us what have been some of the highlights and share some of the stories of some of these guys you've shared their
We
stories.
love Denzel Washington. People like Denzel are phenomenal, not ashamed to tell people about their faith. Chris Pratt has been on the cover a couple of times. You know, Hollywood A-listers who aren't afraid to talk to people about Jesus.
What's your hope for the future for Sorted?
Do you know, we want to grow and grow and grow. We have the opportunities and the infrastructure in place. Just recently we've stepped out in faith. We're printing more magazines. We're giving away free copies in BA departure lounges all over the world. We give away copies at airport departure gates. In other parts of the world, we give away copies at cruise terminals as well. So the gospel and the magazine is literally going to the ends of the earth. So the opportunities are there, but sometimes the finance isn't. So we're always stretching out, believing that finance follows faith and stepping out and trying to reach more and more guys, and a lot of women for that matter as well, with the gospel through Sorted.
Over the years of your touring, what biggest lessons have you learned about not taking yourself too seriously and using humour?
Do you know, humour's a wonderful thing. We've seen humour, laughter set people free. I mean, it's a cliche perhaps, but laughter is a great medicine. It really is, unless you're diabetic, of course, and then insulin probably comes a close second. But I've had people come up to me at the end of gigs who've been laughing and laughing and laughing and coming up and saying, God has healed me tonight of depression. And people who've been very sad, who've maybe lost a loved one, have come up and said, this is the first time I've laughed in 2 years. So we've seen God set people free. It's great to laugh at ourselves as well.
Now, in the midst of all this, you're a real family man. Just tell us a bit about your family and how you've managed to balance that all these years of touring.
Yeah, well, I was a single dad for 5 years and got remarried 12 years ago and discovered that Plan B is sometimes better than Plan A. So we have between us 5 daughters, 23, 21, 18, 17 and 16. Strange names, I know, but quite memorable. And I'm often around a lot in the daytime, which is great. Used to take the girls to school, pick them up. It's just Dad's generally away Fridays and Saturdays on the road, travelling up north somewhere in the UK.